It happened. March the 20th, 2026, governing body member Gerrit Lösch made it official in governing body update number 2 on JW Broadcasting. And here's exactly what he said.
The clarification is this. Each Christian must decide for himself how his own blood will be used in all medical and surgical care. This includes whether to allow his own blood to be removed, stored, and then given back to him.
Stored and given back to him. Before March 20th, 2026, that was against God's law. Today it is a personal decision. I want to spend the next few minutes walking through exactly what was said, what was not said, and what the Watchtower's own documents prove about what this reversal actually means and who is not here to hear it. Now let me walk you through the full announcement carefully, because every word the governing body chooses in moments like this is deliberate, and the words they leave out are just as important as the ones they include. So Mr. Lösch opened by anchoring the announcement in Scripture. The command about not eating blood, the apostolic command to abstain from blood. Standard doctrinal framing. Then he did something very specific. He cited Leviticus 17 verse 13, the law about hunters pouring out an animal's blood and covering it with dust. And then immediately said that the law is not binding on Christians because Christians are not under the Mosaic law. Now pause there, because that exact verse, the command to pour out blood, was the precise scripture the Watchtower used in 1989 to prohibit autologous predonation. I'm going to show you that document in a moment, but keep that detail in your mind. Lösch then said, and this is the key line from the transcript, the Bible does not comment on the use of a person's own blood in medical and surgical care.
Furthermore, the Bible does not comment on the use of a person's own blood in medical and surgical care.
The Bible does not comment on it. Therefore, it is a personal decision. I want you to hold that reasoning up against something. The Bible also does not comment on kidney dialysis, on cell salvage, on heart-lung machines, on hemodilution. The Watchtower has permitted all of those procedures for years, not because the Bible explicitly permits them, but because the governing body decided they were permissible. And the Bible's silence has never previously been sufficient to make something a personal decision. The governing body's permission was always required first, and the governing body is granting that permission today. Not because the Bible changed, not because new scripture was found, not because the men in Warwick, New York, decided the time had come. Lösch closed the announcement with this line.
We also saw how Jehovah helps his people during disasters, and how much we appreciate the clarification about the use of our own blood in medical and surgical care. These examples assure us that Jehovah is caring for his people, whether through organizational arrangements.
A clarification. That is the word they chose, not a change, not a reversal, not a correction, a clarification. And I'm about to show you exactly how much of a clarification this is. I want to show you two documents, because these are the receipts that prove today's announcement is not a clarification. It is a reversal, and the gap between those two words is filled with human lives. The first document is from the Watchtower of March 1989, the question from readers section. And it states this, because it was published on the Watchtower's own online library. And let me read you the key passage directly. The 1989 Watchtower asked its readers, do Jehovah's Witnesses allow the use of autologous blood, such as by having their own blood stored and later put back into them? And the answer, I want you to look at these words carefully, said the following. Describing preoperative autologous donation, it states, Jehovah's Witnesses, though, do not accept this procedure. We have long appreciated that such stored blood certainly is no longer part of the person. It has been completely removed from him, so it should be disposed of in line with God's law. You should pour it out upon the ground as water. Do not, in capitals, dispose of it in line with God's law. Now, here's what Mr. Lösch said today from the official transcript. The clarification is this: each Christian must decide for himself how his own blood will be used in all medical and surgical care. This includes whether to allow his own blood to be removed, stored, and then given back to him. The same procedure, the same blood, the same storage, the same return to the patient. In 1989, do not. It's against God's law. Dispose of it. In 2026, personal decision. Each Christian must decide. That is not a clarification. That is a 180-degree reversal. And I want you to also note that Mr. Lösch said today about the Mosaic law that Christians are not bound by the command to pour blood out and cover it with dust from Leviticus 70. That is the exact scripture the 1989 Watchtower used to prohibit this procedure. He dismantled their own previous argument. In the same breath, he used to announce the change without once acknowledging it. But wait, there's a second document. The year 2000 Watchtower stated this, and I want to quote it precisely. Hence, we do not donate blood, nor do we store for transfusion our blood. That practice conflicts with God's law. That practice conflicts with God's law. The year 2000, the same governing body, the same claimed divine authority. Today, that practice is a personal decision. The God who said it conflicted with his law in 2000 is apparently fine with it in 2026. Either God changed his mind or men changed their policy, and only one of those explanations is consistent with the evidence. Let me be completely precise about what has and has not changed as of this announcement. What has changed? Storing your own blood before surgery and having it transfused back into you? Preoperative autologous donation is no longer prohibited. It is now a personal decision for each Jehovah's Witness. If you have planned surgery coming up, you can now discuss autologous pre-donation with your surgeon without violating Watchtower doctrine. That conversation is legally and doctrinally open in a way it was not before. What has not changed? The ban on whole blood transfusions from donors. The 4 primary blood components, red cells, white cells, platelets, and plasma, remain prohibited. A Jehovah's Witness who faces a medical emergency with significant blood loss, or a child who requires multiple transfusions to treat certain types of cancers, this policy change does not grant them complete freedom of conscience to accept potentially life-saving interventions involving donated blood. Many members live in countries that lack access to providers who could store their own blood. Autologous pre-donation requires a hospital or blood bank with the facilities to collect, process, and to store the blood weeks before the surgery. And in large parts of Africa, South Asia, Latin America, where the Watchtower has millions of members, that infrastructure simply does not exist. So for a witness in a well-equipped private hospital, today's announcement is a genuine, meaningful change. But for a witness in a rural clinic in the DRC or rural Brazil, today's announcement changes almost nothing about the life or death decision they face. And for a Jehovah's Witness who arrives at an emergency room after a car accident needing an immediate transfusion from a blood bank, this announcement changes nothing at all. And what about the people who are not here to hear this announcement? The Watchtower Society is a large organization with more than 8 million members. When one of these cases leads to a premature death, it is always tragic. The long-standing blood policy has led to senseless loss of life. Those are not my words. Gerrit Lösch's announcement today did not mention those people. It did not count them. It did not name them. It offered no acknowledgement of the cost of the position now being quietly reclassified as a personal decision. It framed the reversal as a clarification, arrived at through prayer and consideration of Scripture, and moved on. The 2000 Watchtower said storing your own blood for transfusion conflicts with God's law. Families read that. Elders cited it. Patients signed advance directives based on it. People died under it. And today it was retired with a single word: clarification. That word is doing the work of an apology the organization will never give. And let me tell you what today is and what it is not. It is not transparency. Lösch did not explain what prompted the change. He did not detail what prompted the change in the organization's stacks. There was no acknowledgement of the previous prohibition, no acknowledgement of its human cost, no acknowledgement of the families who lost someone because that prohibition was in force. Just a new position, framed as a clarification, presented as the natural product of prayer. It is not a full reversal. Emergency transfusions from donors remain prohibited. Children in life-threatening situations remain at risk. The architecture of the blood doctrine remains largely intact, but it is a confession. Not in the words that Lösch used, but in the logic. Because the governing body just told 8 million people that the God who said storing your own blood conflicts with this law in 2000 has no comment on the matter in 2026. That the scripture used to prohibit this in 1989 no longer applies. That the thing their literature said, do not, in capitals, is now something each Christian decides for themselves. We will keep covering it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video because these stories matter, and your voice in this conversation matters. The people who have lost their lives deserve better. I want you to say their names in the comments if you knew one of them. See you soon.